dziękuję, ale... But... Hi everyone. I think my previous live video has been muted because probably the topic I'm talking about is not something that anybody wants to hear or something. So I was talking about how there is a power play and Viktor Orban is getting along with everyone, getting along with Russia, with China and Turkey. So you would think how great it is for a citizen of the country to be, living in these times, but it's not. So, as you all know, that Viktor Orban is supported by President Putin of Russia. President Putin has called Zelensky an illegitimate leader. Do you think so? Well, I don't know why President Putin thinks that he has the authority to call somebody else illegitimate. First of all, he is waging a war on its neighbor country and people have been suffering. As we know, many Ukrainians have left the country. But hello, good night, although it's tonight, good afternoon. So anyway, returning back to the topic, Viktor Orban is getting along with Russia and China and Turkey. But there's a catch, and the ordinary citizens of Hungary like me or others, we don't benefit from this. We look around and we can feel inadequate. You know, if you say you can speak fluent English, but it doesn't matter because you don't have any value. Because a Chinese citizen could come to, the country and, well, they can easily, do business, So, they are popular. So who cares about the local citizens, right? So anyway, returning the topic about the Ukraine war, which is very important because Hungary is a neighbor of Ukraine. Viktor Orban has been supportive of President Putin. And he doesn't like President Zelensky. Putin has called President Zelensky an illegitimate leader, and he insulted him as being a bad Jew. As he asked the question, does he even go to the synagogue? Because he was condemning Zelensky as being a liberal Jew. Do you think that Putin should have the authority to tell who is a good Jew and who is a bad one? Like this, direct. Because basically he was insulting, Zelensky. And what to say, this is a topic, even the Jews are divided, there are Orthodox Jews and those secular ones. So it's a topic that's very debatable. I'm not Jewish, so I'm not going to go into details about that. But I'm just saying that President Putin has insulted Zelensky in such a horrible way. So, but Viktor Orban is still supportive of Putin. And why? Because Russia provides, natural gas supply to Hungary. And that's why Hungary submits to Russia. And it doesn't care about its right next door neighbor, how many years it has been under war. Does it make any Hungarian look to be a good neighbor? No. I'm not proud of Hungary at all. I'm sad that I'm from a very small country and I don't have a I don't have a future, you know. So I'm just saying that this topic has been dragging on for years. And the other day, Kharkiv was targeted. An ordinary residential area was targeted. Why? What did those ordinary people in Ukraine did to Putin necessarily? Did they have weapons or anything? Just ordinary people? No. But they ended up being targets. So whether accidental or intentional, but they were targeted and they got hit. So well, this topic, well, actually, I often have a very bleak scenario. I sometimes think that all the superpowers talk shit about each other. The USA talks bad about China and vice versa. And, you know, or the USA talks bad sometimes about Russia. So, you know, it's all just made up bullshit, and their only aim is just to kill people. Their only aim is just to kill ordinary citizens. And they just use this cover of superpower, you know, competition. But they have this arranged that they would do this. There would be this war, and there would be, I don't know how many people killed, you know, their aim. So this is basically it. I don't know why, I don't know, receive messages that doesn't relate to me. I don't know, who do you send those messages to? Anyway, returning to the topic. So do you think that Zelensky is an illegitimate leader of Ukraine? And Putin has called him a bad Jew. Like, you know, liberal Jew, and you know, that's bad, you know. Why? Why? Why does everybody have to be the same? That's my question. Why does everybody need to be the same? Second, I'm not really a religious person, so that's why I just don't understand some of these political leaders, why they act the way they do. As for Viktor Orban, you know, he said that he would want Hungary to remain as a Judeo-Christian, you know, value nation. So basically, he is getting along with the Zionists, and he wants Hungary to remain a Christian country. How? Because the majority of the world is becoming, you know, Muslim. So how does he want Hungary to remain, you know, Christian, when the rest of Europe is the case is that there are more and more Muslims in Europe. But Hungary, you know, Orban says that Hungary, he wants to remain it as a Christian nation. So how does he want to manage that? So it's an interesting topic, but I think he may fail in the elections if the people would gather and say that, well, actually, he hasn't been doing much for the country. He was just favoring the Chinese, the Russian, you know, and he wasn't favoring the local population. Yeah. Viktor Orban hasn't favored Hungarians much, as we would have liked to be favored, you know. So what can I say? The political leaders, they have their agendas, and they have to stick to a scenario being played out. That's their job. They have to stick to a scenario and implement certain things. It's their job. But they don't favor the local people. None of the political leaders do, actually. If we look at it seriously, none of the political leaders favor their citizens. Only their tiny, tiny circle they favor, nobody else. So, human corruption, you know. So, what to say? I don't hope for anything, whether the government in Hungary changes or not. I don't hope for anything. But that's the thing, the Zionists always put somebody in place of a country who, they can, control and manage the assets of the country. So basically, it's just an arranged world that we live in. Everything is arranged. So I don't know what to say. So what's in the scenario? I'm not sure. Maybe Viktor Orban would lose the elections, maybe not. But the reason why Orban could lose the elections is if the Zionists would give Zelensky, a higher status, then Orban could lose the elections. If Zelensky were lifted up, and if Ukraine were lifted up, then Orban could lose power, in my opinion. Merhaba, nasılsınız? Şu anda seçimler hakkında konuşuyorum. Birkaç ay sonra seçimler olacak. Türkiye'den bahsetmiyorum. Hiç kimse korkmasın. I'm not talking about Turkey, so So I'm just saying that Hungary is not a key country, but it is Ukraine's neighbor. And I think maybe the Zionists would want a leader in Hungary who is in favor of Zelensky, because Orban has been against Zelensky. So I hope that Orban would lose the elections and a leader who would favor Zelensky would be in place in Hungary. But I don't know if that would happen. So we will see in April, the results of the elections. So because I'm tired that Orban has been terrible to Zelensky, whether or not, Zelensky is a liberal Jew, doesn't deserve to be treated in such a horrible way. And President Putin is not right. President Putin is not right either. And no matter how much he talks about the West and the aggression of the West, as Putin talks about it, he is not great either. He also has his faults. So that's why I wish that in Hungary, a leader who would favor Zelensky would come into power. But Orban is not that leader. So I'm concerned, but that, Orban would still remain in power. So, but let's see. Although I don't have hopes because, well, I'm just an ordinary citizen without connections. So I'm not going to be valuable to anyone, I think. Thanks for joining in. And, I guess, I don't know, this topic is very boring to most of you because I'm talking about a very small country, which is Ukraine's neighbor, and Hungary doesn't matter much. Although, Ukraine matters. We should give more importance for Ukraine because that country suffers so much. And as a neighbor to Ukraine, I don't have the heart to see their suffering. And some say Ukrainians have been bad to Russians because, yeah, they refuse to speak Russian. Well, many Ukrainians can speak Russian. I had been to Ukraine once. I had I had been to Kyiv in 2019, and I was even using Russian, and nobody was beating me up or anything. But I'm just saying, this is a propaganda by Russia that, Ukrainians refused to speak Russian and they were bad people, and so the war started because of Ukrainians were bad. This is the story, the justification for the war. It's always Ukraine who is bad, right? The smaller nation. I'm not saying that the USA is an angel, it's not. But Russia isn't an angel either. So, but yeah, this is politics, a ton of shit, being thrown around. So sadly, human nature is evil. People compete for the same small amount of depleting resources. It's horrible. It's pathetic. But this is human nature. Yeah, we are, how to say in English, zavallı insanlar, poor people, miserable people, competing for smaller and smaller amount of resources in the world. This, I wish I hadn't been born into this world, seriously. I hate what this world is. I don't fit in. It just sucks to be stuck and getting older and older. So I pray for President Zelensky of Ukraine and for Hungary to have a leader who would support Zelensky and not Putin. So yeah, this is my wish, but I don't hope for anything. So take care and thank you for watching. Goodbye.